He was crying today. I saw him wiping tears from his face in court. He said, "I hate myself right now," before the judge and before this sentence came down.
He'll be a lot better off in prison than he is in the federal jail. You know, at least there you can move around and you got some freedom on the yard and things like that.
Combs, in his own words, saying he realizes he's in a situation where no amount of money or fame can save him.
What I want to do with my freedom is, make sure that I can make change.
Nearly 2 years after federal raids on his mansions exposed the dark side of Hollywood, Sean "Diddy" Combs has officially been sentenced to 4 years in prison. His legal team quickly announced plans to file an appeal, and some reports suggest Diddy may even attempt to secure a pardon from former President Donald Trump.
Sean "Diddy" Combs will be sentenced to 50 months in prison. That is 50 months in prison. Far less than the 11 years requested, far more than the 14 months. He will not walk out of the door behind me in the courtroom today. He will not be a free man for 50 months. The judge says, which is a little shy of 4.25 years. This is a serious sentence that reflects the gravity of your crimes and conducts. He also says this is a hard time away from your family, but also notes that Combs will have a life after prison, after 50 months. This is demonstrating to the court the gravity of the crimes and the conduct, Casey. Here you have it, 50 months for the 2 charges, transportation for the purpose of prostitution, the Mann Act violations. They tried very hard as the defense today, Casey, to suggest that would be a high sentence given the fact that the defense says he did not financially benefit and profit from these so-called prostitution acts. The judge rejecting it almost out of hand, sentencing the music mogul, convicted in July by a jury of his peers, to 50 months in prison.
In July, Diddy was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation for illicit activity, but was acquitted of the more serious charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking. His legal team believed that beating the toughest charges could lead to a lighter sentence, or possibly even his release within weeks. In fact, Diddy was so confident he'd walk free that he had already scheduled speaking appearances for the following week.
Tonight, prosecutors asking a judge to sentence Sean "Diddy" Combs to more than 11 years in federal prison, arguing he engaged in violence and put others in fear. A stark contrast to Combs' legal team, who are seeking 14 months, which would see him walk free in a matter of weeks, as he's already served 13 months in prison.
Look for the judge to land somewhere in the middle, split the difference, a sentence of maybe 4 to 6 years.
Combs was convicted on prostitution charges over the summer, but acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering, which carried up to a life sentence in prison. A source familiar with Combs' strategy telling NBC News that the mogul plans to address the court himself during his sentencing hearing. Both sides have submitted letters to the judge, one written by Cassie Ventura, Combs' former girlfriend, who was a key prosecution witness, writing in part, "I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up." Combs' 85-year-old mother writing that her son has made some terrible mistakes in his life, which I know he recognizes.
Diddy gathered his entire family to speak on his behalf ahead of sentencing, and even prepared a video of himself spending time with his children. He believed that showing this softer side might persuade the judge to hand down a lighter sentence. Before the ruling, Diddy's kids, and even his mother, pleaded with the judge for his release. According to reports, TMZ obtained the video Diddy presented in court.
Chaotic scenes as Diddy's family came to court to support him at his sentencing.
How you feeling today, Mama?
His mother, Janice, was followed by his son, Quincy, and 3 daughters who entered court hand in hand. Another son and his girlfriend were also there to show their support.
What are you giving to the world? I don't think you know, man.
You gotta give her a bottle then.
Know that you mean something to people. Know that you mean something to people. Like you live somewhere in people's heart.
My nose fell off. No, my lip fell off. Thank you. You wear it?
This country and this world we live in may have planned for y'all, I didn't listen to that, and I don't want y'all to listen to it either. And I'm happy to say this is our third school we have opened. It's official. When we come together as a people, nothing can stop us. What I want to do with my freedom is, make sure that I can make change.
You will change the world.
I've been to hell.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna make it.
You gonna make it, that's right.
And I got something for you. Remember I told you I had a present for you?
Yeah. Ain't that pretty?
This is a heart, because you're my heart.
Oh,
all right?
Okay.
You my heart.
Diddy pleaded with the judge for leniency, insisting that his time behind bars had changed him and that he truly regretted his actions. For the first time since the trial began, he personally spoke and took the stand. In addition, Diddy submitted a letter to the court, backed by 15 inmates, his family members, and even one of his victims, urging the judge to grant him release.
On the eve of his sentencing, Sean Diddy Combs, the fallen music mogul, writing a federal judge pleading for mercy. He writes in part, "I have to admit, my downfall was rooted in my selfishness." He apologized to 2 of the women who accused him of abuse, including Cassie Ventura, who he assaulted. This as prosecutors are asking for an 11-year prison sentence for Combs after he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Laura Jarrett joins us now live in studio. Laura, you have the letter right there, and he makes it very clear he's asking the judge to be let go to his family right now.
Tom, it's a pretty striking letter. Combs, in his own words, saying he realizes he's in a situation where no amount of money or fame can save him. He writes this: "I have been humbled and broken to my core. Jail is designed to break you. There have been some days I thought I would be better off dead." He goes on to say, Tom, that he lost everything from his businesses to time with his children. He's a single father. He also apologizes, notably, to the women who prosecutors say he abused. He says that video, that infamous video of him abusing Cassie, plays over in his head daily. "I literally lost my mind." He says he's a changed man. He says he's sober for the first time in 25 years. He will have an opportunity to address the court there tomorrow. Remember, of course, his lawyers are asking for just 14 months. Prosecutors asking for far greater, 11 years behind bars. He was acquitted of the charges, though, of course, that could have kept him behind bars for the rest of his lifetime.
Diddy went as far as apologizing to Cassie and his other victims, admitting he was ashamed of his actions and promising never to repeat them. But neither the judge nor the victims were persuaded. In fact, Cassie herself submitted a letter to the court, expressing fear for her safety if Diddy were released. Observing Diddy's reaction to the verdict, the judge remained unconvinced that he had truly changed, especially considering that Diddy was reportedly participating in freak-offs on the very day of his arrest.
Prosecutors are asking for a substantial sentence of just over 11 years, writing it's needed because Combs is unrepentant, that he largely conceded his conduct, the violence, domestic abuse, drug use, and distribution, and bribery. Former girlfriend Cassie Ventura, who testified at trial, submitted a victim impact letter that reads in part, quote, "My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality." She says they moved, and she is, quote, "keeping as private and quiet as I possibly can because I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up about his abuse trial." We spoke with attorney Rich Schoenstein, who is not involved in the case. Combs has no prior criminal history, and the U.S. Probation Department recommends a sentence range of 5 to 7 years.
I think that's probably the right range. I don't think he's going to get a short sentence like the defense wants, and I also don't think he's going to get the maximum. So I think that middle ground is where most people expect this to go, but we will see. It's up to the judge.
50 Cent also submitted a letter to the judge, claiming that Diddy had personally threatened him and stressing that he doesn't believe Diddy has changed in any way.
"Dear Judge, I have had an ongoing dispute with Puffy for over 20 years. He is very dangerous. Multiple times I have feared for my life. I think you should consider the safety of the general public, Your Honor, before unleashing him upon them. There hasn't been enough time for him to reform or make any adjustments, despite his trying to teach class in there. As you are already aware, the government has spent the maximum amount of money on deploying federal agencies, which appear to be an army in 2 locations simultaneously. Later, his son, who's dealing with his own allegations, claimed that the feds had hit the wrong house. Anyway, Diddy's only going to return to hiring more sex workers and keeping most of the baby oil away from the general public, and the babies need it. My Netflix doc on this scandalous subject is coming soon. In the caption of his post, 50 Cent wrote, "This is my letter to the judge on Diddy's case. What? I'm scared for my life." Now, while 50 Cent shared this petty letter for the entertainment of his fans and followers in the streets of social media, there are some people who did indeed write real letters to the judge. Cassie penned a powerful and emotional letter, basically telling the judge that she is still having nightmares from what she endured during her relationship with Diddy.
The moment Diddy heard his sentence, he collapsed to his knees in tears. Realizing what awaits him behind bars, he was caught off guard by the reality of prison time. Now, speculation is swirling that Diddy may choose to cooperate with federal authorities, snitching on those who worked alongside him in hopes of securing a reduced sentence.
Sean Diddy Combs has been sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. Over the summer, the music mogul had been found guilty on prostitution-related charges. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman was in the courtroom today in Manhattan and joins us now. Katrina, thanks for being with us here tonight. Going into today, there was the potential Combs could have even been out within weeks. So how did he react when he heard that sentence?
You know, Nancy, what was notable was how little reaction there was. He looked down at his hands. They were clasped in his lap, and he just looked defeated. The same with his family. It was very quiet in that courtroom, very solemn, and it was a drastic difference from earlier because this day stretched on for a really long time. Many people spoke in court, his attorneys, and most notably his children. That was extremely emotional. They were crying. They were talking about how much they respect their father and how hard it has been for them to not have him around, especially his children who lost their mother, Kim Porter. His lawyer, Nicole Westmoreland, also broke down crying when she talked about Sean Combs. She said that he had changed her life. And then Sean Combs himself got up and spoke in court. And he said that what's been really hard for him during this trial is having to be silent, not being able to speak on his own behalf. He said that his actions were disgusting, they were shameful, and they were sick. He said that he's not a larger-than-life person. He is a human being, and that he got lost in the excess, in the ego. His voice was shaking. He was crying today. I saw him wiping tears from his face in court. And he ultimately said that he is humbled and he's broken. He said, "I hate myself right now," before the judge and before this sentence came down.
Even Diddy's own lawyers were stunned by the outcome. They entered court expecting he might be released on parole, but instead left with their client facing a crushing defeat. Afterward, Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, told reporters that the fight isn't over and vowed to push for the entire case to be overturned if possible.
Out of New York City, we are hearing Diddy's attorneys speaking to the media after he was sentenced earlier today. This is live.
Yeah, we are planning to appeal.
Man, I want to hear them, bro.
We are planning to appeal. We think we have strong bases to appeal. The strongest basis is that the jury reached a verdict on coercion. It found there was not coercion. And I think the judge said coercion today as a basis for a sentence at least a dozen times. We think that is unconstitutional. We think that a jury verdict should mean more than our jury's verdict seems to mean. And so we are planning to appeal.
Mr. Agnifilo, if the prosecution files a cross appeal, what would happen in that regard if they filed a cross appeal and then Sean Diddy Combs get a higher sentence?
He would not get a higher sentence, and they're not gonna cross appeal. We're gonna appeal. We think we're right, and they'll respond to the appeal, and it'll be decided by the Second Circuit as soon as.
Tell us about the conversation you had with your client after the sentencing.
Consensual. The judge clearly thought the sexual encounters weren't consensual.
Because he's
What did you
biased.
make of his remarks?
He's biased.
If anyone, I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking. There was no racketeering. Everything was consensual. Everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict.
Well, at least the judge was open-minded. At least the judge was open-minded for both sides.
It's possible that Diddy's emotional video actually backfired and hurt his chances of leniency. Right after the video was shown, Diddy admitted he had been constantly under the influence of drugs and that this was the first time in 25 years he had been sober. That revelation suggested he was likely intoxicated even while the video was being filmed.
How unprecedented was it showing that video, especially the way it was put together, made him look like this great father, philanthropist, and this guy who was doing so much for the community?
How old are you?
2.
How old are you?
2.
2. You got a 2. That's 2.
I started out just like you guys. I come from New York. I grew up in Harlem.
Clap it up on the sideline. Let's get our energy right. Come on.
For the defense, I think they would say it's a balance, and it was well produced. There's no doubt about that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's such a well-produced video. Does that hurt him that it looks like he went out and hired a production company to make that video?
You would think that there was a lot of thought and intent that went into making a video like that, but it was well produced. It had the highlight reel of his life, even despite his submission and his letter saying this is the first time that he's been sober for over 25 years. Kevin, I couldn't help but wonder which moments in the video was he maybe not using drugs, or at some point, you know, based on his own letter, his own admission that most of this time when his children were younger, I mean, he showed video of him in the marathon I used to run, and I don't know how one could even do something like that without being off of the drugs, and maybe at that time he was.
One of the jurors who reviewed the tapes and evidence from the case revealed that they actually expected Diddy to receive a much harsher sentence. According to the juror, Diddy's abuse spanned decades, with his freak-offs continuing for over 30 years. After seeing the full extent of his actions, many jurors felt he deserved far more time behind bars.
At trial, of course, the only opinions that mattered were those in the jury box, and we know where those landed. And then came sentencing, where only one opinion mattered, and that was the judge's. But I cannot stop wondering how Diddy's jury feels about the judge's sentence. My next guest was an alternate on Diddy's panel, and while he didn't help decide Sean Combs' fate, he saw every last bit of that evidence, and he heard all of the witnesses and all of the arguments and all of those tapes. He just goes by a first name, understandably. George, welcome back to the show. It's nice to have you, and we will keep your last name under wraps. I can imagine it's probably been a lot since trial. Can I just ask you for your reaction to that sentence today? 50 months, $500,000 in fine, and 5 years supervised release. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it wasn't exactly what I had hoped for, but I understand how the judge got there, and I am glad that justice was served in the end.
Well, what were you hoping for?
I was hoping a little bit more like in line with what the federal guidelines were. Yeah, maybe 5-6 years around there. I know the judge gave a little bit less. So kind of in the middle, I was kind of hoping for, but still, this is, I'm glad that there is some justice and that Sean Combs is going to be having some jail time.
Jurors were stunned to learn that Diddy had been planning to walk free as early as next week. He was so certain of his release that he acted as if it were guaranteed. In his mind, he had done nothing wrong and didn't deserve any of the consequences he was facing.
What we discovered today during sentencing, the prosecutors told the judge that Sean Combs had booked speaking engagements for Miami next week, and the prosecutor said that was the ultimate in hubris. What were your thoughts about that?
No, I would say so too. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how he would even do that, because even if it was the 14 months, still that would be, I think, towards the end of the year. So I'm not sure what he was really thinking on that. But yeah, it does show the arrogance that he thought that he would just get off on this. But I know that, but it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, arrogance is definitely another word for it. I'm also sort of thinking the stupidity, it just seemed crazy to be doing something like that, especially since it got into the hands of the prosecutors and they were allowed to use it.
A former mobster warned that with Diddy now being transferred to a federal facility, his safety is at serious risk. Surrounded by inmates who would do anything for money, Diddy's wealth makes him a prime target. And because he isn't heading to a maximum security prison, he won't have the round-the-clock surveillance that could shield him from potential attacks.
Obviously, he's disappointed, although he really shouldn't be. I think, a 4-year sentence here with already credit for the year or so that he has in, I think he did very well with respect to all of the drama and all of the circumstance around this trial. There was a lot of bad stuff out there, and I'm not saying, I'm not passing judgment on that, but it just looked really bad. And he could have gotten up to 10 years or 11 years. So I think the judge, took everything into consideration. I think his family today made a very good plea for him, and I think he did very well. That's my opinion.
So in your experience, like your own experience and other, inmates that you've seen go through it and then show back up at the cell block, how do they take this? Do they bury their head in the pillow and cry, or do they keep their head held high and just pack up their stuff and wait for their assigned new prison? Like, tell me everything.
Well, everybody's different. I'm sure he went back was somewhat disappointed, so he's probably, dwelling on that. Hey, it could have been differently. Maybe I should have gotten out. Maybe he's a little bit upset, a little bit angry. I get it. All those emotions come into play. But right now, he's got to get ready. He'll spend a couple of weeks there until they designate him to a new facility. And he'll be a lot better off in prison than he is in the federal jail. At least there you can move around and you got some freedom on the yard and things like that. My thought is he'll collect himself, get himself together. There are ways for him to improve himself. They have the Bureau of Prisons now has a drug program. And if you're allowed to get into that drug program, you can knock as much as 18 months off your sentence. Now, I don't know if he'll qualify, if they'll allow him to go in, but he'll probably start to think about, okay, what can I do to reduce my time now? That's what everybody thinks when you get in there. Is there any way we can better ourselves? He's thinking about what facility they're going to send him to. I'm sure he spoke to his lawyers and he asked his lawyers to put in a facility that's close to his home, close to his family, a low or medium level. I don't think he'll get into a camp.
Can you though? Does your request actually count? I mean, I thought the feds just put you where it works for them. I didn't think you get a say in it.
Well, here's the thing. The judge, you could ask the judge to recommend. The Bureau of Prisons doesn't have to go along with the judge's recommendation, but it does help a little bit. They do try to sometimes satisfy the judge's request. You can put in a request, and sometimes they'll honor it, sometimes they won't. It's really up to them. They're not bound by anything at that point in time.
Diddy's defense team argues that he doesn't deserve this outcome and should be released on parole. They're pushing to have the entire case dismissed altogether, pointing out that he was acquitted of the most serious charges.
I just think my daughter's on the defense, and she didn't do much today, but I don't think this was a really well thought out presentation.
So what do you make of the speculation that, but with time served and, that this is just his first act, he could get this down and he may serve as little as one more year?
There's a possibility of that. I mean, if he makes smart moves and if he does and gets the big issue right now is where is he going to get designated? And what that means is the BOP, Bureau of Prisons, is going to do an analysis. They're going to take the PSR, which is the pre-sentence report. They're going to take the minute order and the sentencing sheet. They're going to crunch those things. They're going to then decide where are we going to put them. They will take into account, and one of the reasons I think that Tenney asked that they hold that until Monday, they take into account where the judge recommends. Yeah, Tenney is my daughter, exactly. And they take into account where he recommends. That does not bind them. But where he goes depends on a lot of factors and what programs are available. You can cut off a lot of time depending on the programs you're going to do.
Diddy's final words to the judge, where he openly admitted to everything, have now been made public. He tried to assure the court that he was finished with his old ways and would never repeat those mistakes. But the judge wasn't convinced, largely because throughout his time in prison, Diddy had been caught repeatedly reaching out to witnesses and pressuring them to remain silent. Is that really the behavior of an innocent man?
Diddy is giving his last words at his sentencing hearing before the judge hands down his sentence. Diddy says, "One of the hardest things that I've had to handle has been having to be quiet and not express how sorry I am for my actions. I don't take that lightly. I would like to apologize to Cassie Ventura and her family. I apologize to Jane for bringing you into my mess. I would like to apologize to all the victims of domestic violence. I know that the disgusting video triggered people. I was sick from illegal substances. I needed help, but I didn't get the help. I knew better. My faith taught me better. I'm not this larger-than-life person. I'm just a human being. I'm trying my best. I lost my freedom, the opportunity to raise my children and be there for my mother. I lost all my businesses. I hate myself right now. I've been stripped down to nothing. I want to apologize to my 7 children. I'm so sorry. You deserve better. To my mother, I feel you taught me better. I let down my community. I wanted to show that we could take care of our own problems. I got lost. I'm not this bad person. I'm sorry to my community. I let y'all down. People can change. I know I've changed. Sometimes you have to go through life experiences. These are not excuses. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. I beg your honor for mercy, to be a father again, to be a son again, a leader in my community again, to get the help I need. I don't want to let God down. I have no one to blame but myself. I know I will never put my hands on another person again. I'm willing to comply with any conditions. Me sharing my story, it's not a scheme to get less time. This story is tragic. Your honor gives me a chance to share my story. This has a positive impact. Thank you to the jury. Your honor gave me the confidence in the jury. I believe that I did not have to testify. They sacrificed 8 weeks. I thank them for not guilty. I take full responsibility for my Mann Act convictions. They want you to make an example of me. I want you to think about making an example of what a person can do if they get another chance. Consider the beautiful children who spoke for me. No matter what anyone says, I know that I am truly sorry. Thank you, Your Honor.
What Diddy is hoping for now is trying to get his sentence reduced. The judge looked at everything that was presented during the trial, even if it wasn't related to his conviction, and decided that Diddy was a threat to everyone around him. The only way Diddy can get his sentence reduced now is if Diddy tries to appeal the decision or cooperate with the feds. There's always a bigger fish to catch, and it's possible that the feds might let Diddy go in exchange for someone more powerful.
You said the judge is going to look at everything else that came out in that courtroom, and the sentencing will be related to that. So you were right. Were you surprised at the 50 months?
Well, I was surprised it wasn't more, quite frankly. Based on the prosecutors wanted 11 years. The judge, as we know, said he would be considering things outside of the conviction. And so and wouldn't give him $1 million bond, or I think later he offered $50 million, and you wouldn't give him a bond. So no, I thought he was going to bring the hammer down a little harder. But 5 years is 5 years, 4 years and 2 months rather.
Right, because there is 14 months time served. So you're looking at about maybe 3 years?
Yes.
3 years. Now, what they're saying, I don't know if this is true or not. What's that?
The 1 year off, or 1.4, I'm sorry, year and 4 months, as you just said.
Exactly, yeah. 14 months of time served. So, but if he qualifies for the RDAP program, which is a residential drug abuse program, he could potentially get like 6 months off, maybe a little bit more off, some halfway house situations.
When Diddy's verdict was announced, he confidently told everyone he'd be coming home soon. Considering he was facing up to 20 years but only received a 4-year sentence, that statement raised eyebrows. If Diddy chooses to cooperate in exchange for a lighter term, he could potentially expose some of the most powerful figures in the industry. Many believe his arrest is just the beginning, that Diddy may be the first domino to fall, with more high-profile names possibly landing behind bars next.
Bit of a commotion outside the courthouse. Sean Combs' mother just returned here. She walked in just a second ago, said she is feeling good because her son was acquitted of the most serious charges that he faced. trafficking and racketeering conspiracy, both of which could have sent him to prison for life. He was convicted, though, of transportation to engage in prostitution, and that charge could put him in prison for up to 20 years, although it's not expected he would get that much time. What we're waiting for now is the judge to decide whether Combs can be released on bail while he awaits his sentencing. He offered to put up $1 million. He put up his homes in Miami and Los Angeles. They're certainly opulent. The jury, the judge, everybody saw pictures of them. And the judge said he would convene a hearing later this afternoon to determine if Combs should be released. He seemed confident.
With federal investigators still digging, many insiders think this sentence could be just the start. If Diddy decides to talk, Hollywood's deepest secrets might finally be exposed. Do you think he'll stay silent or take everyone down with him? Be sure to subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update, because this story is nowhere near finished.